Hello and welcome to Sound Like, where today we're going to look at Unsustainable. What gear are we using? What guitar are we using? Well, we're using the Chaos Manson with XY controller. But first things first, let's get into pedal cam. So we are here in pedal cam. I hope you have your tea at the ready. I do. Now, the reason we're going to need tea is because there's a lot to digest. Pedal cam. Bank 7. We've seen this one before. Blues Driver. Overdrive. Fuzz Factory. Big Muff. I'll say that again. Big Muff. For Unsustainable, we're only going to be using the Big Muff on patch D the vast majority of the time. The only other time we use a different setting, which is patch B, is later on in the song before the second run through of the crazy guitar stuff, but more on that later. So, patch D. What do? How do you get the Unsustainable sound? Well, it's very easy. You connect a Big Muff to a Whammy pedal and hope for the best. This sound is only really achievable with a Whammy pedal that's having MIDI messages sent to it to change program settings at specific times, as well as adjusting the amount of as well as adjusting the treadle, which again, that can all be done on MIDI. So you may be using a Whammy pedal for this song, but you never, as long as you program everything, you never need to touch it. Even turning it on is all done by MIDI. And we'll just show what's happening on the Whammy pedal as the MIDI's going through to it as I'm playing it. So check this out. So what's happening here? So we're going to look at the Whammy pedal programming and see all of the patch changes that are going on as the guitar is going on right now in real time. You can see that different program changes are being sent to the Whammy pedal for different octaves to switch to, from 2 octaves up or right the way down to 2 octaves down, variants in between. Each number corresponds to a different program change within that. It's programmed at specific times as the song goes on, and as we can see on the other menu that we're changing, the expression, which is the position of the treadle, or what that would look like if I was manipulating that. And if I tried to do this, I'd break my ankle. Just looking at the changes that are in here isn't possible with human feet. So this is why this whole thing has to be programmed. It's a lot easier to do this way, it's a lot more reliable, and you can have loads more fun with it than choosing one preset and just kind of running with it. Right, so now we're now going to look at the next section for Whammy programming. So watch closely on the Whammy to see what's happening in terms of program changes. So what's happening in this section? Well, obviously it's very different from what was happening in the previous section. So to dive deeper into it, we're going to look at the screen that's sending MIDI messages to the Whammy for this section. So after those first two sections with the Whammy is the kind of the vocal section. of the song, and as we can see on pedal cam, it's just an octave down for this whole section while the guitar is going, and it follows the bass line. And then at that point, some chaos pad stuff goes on where it's pretty standard. It's just on patch 75, and you just play around with it. And then the build up starts to happen, and we're still on the whammy. This is the only part where I use the overdrive distortion setting, so it sounds like this. And that's pretty much it. I only switched to this so it pulls out some of the fatter tones, because we're already on an octave down, so it's pretty heavy. It's got a lot of bottom and low end to it. I just like to switch to something between overdrive and distortion to give me something sonically different to kind of play around with, and then it makes the switch back to the big muff again for the final section with the program MIDI all the more bigger and fatter and sweeter and just way more fun to listen to and play around with. And then the final MIDI section is programming wise, I've only tweaked it very slightly, but it's exactly the same as the first section. The only difference is there was a part of it where it pitches up instead of down. But that section is just for me to kind of have something a little bit different with it to make that section just to stand out in a subtle way. But that's it. That's the section. We'll have a run through of the final section just so that you can hear the sort of the slight subtle change to it. But that's pretty much Unsustainable. There's so much emphasis on whammy here, and I've said before, this is only achievable with a whammy by sending mini messages to it to change the program settings at specific points. Otherwise, if you're trying to do anything like this manually, it's going to sound rough and out of time, and you won't get that kind of sonic range. You'll be stuck with one octave that is a compromise. Whichever octave you pick, it's going to be a compromise. So let's just listen to that last section, and then we'll finish off. And there we go. That's the final section, whammy wise. As I'm sure you can imagine, this is so boring without the whammy in it. We'll listen to what that sounds like with just the big muff, no whammy, no programming. You'll agree that it sounds it sounds almost unmusical. So as you can tell, the whammy is everything on this song. Like I said before, it's pretty much an instrument in and of itself, with the amount of impact and influence this is having over your guitar signal. As long as you've got a pedal that's got a lot of bottom low end punch to it, teaming that up with the whammy will go really well, which is why I do not use the overdrive distortion. That's not low enough, and the prom distortion is just even worse, inverted commas, than the overdrive distortion. It can get some good low end, but there's a reason why everyone loves a big muff pedal and not just the name. So that was Unsustainable. I hope you enjoyed it. It was quite difficult in parts to kind of really show off how the Whammy's being manipulated and controlled. But if you liked it, do let me know. If you want me to create a more deeper look into how the Whammy is programmed, do let me know down in the comments. I'd love to make a video focusing on how messages are sent to the Whammy pedal from Logic Pro, which is what I'm using. It'd be great to hear from you if you want me to create that sort of video. I want to create videos that you guys want to watch, and the only way I can do that is if you like, share and subscribe, and you tell me down in the comments what you want to see, what you liked, maybe what you didn't like, what you might want to see less of, if you want to see more of. So that was that. So I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.